you're good to go.
All right. So this week, just going over the 19th through the 23rd. Started the week off with a small loss. Just gonna go over that really quick. What day was that? 19th. And we had HALB, which came up later throughout the week, and then we had MMEDF and also NWBO. So I'm gonna go over HALB on the 19th. So I intended on playing this just because you see on the 19th, it actually went red on this day, but the day before it went green. So I was just speculating maybe a breakout may happen this day, which it didn't, which is okay. I mitigated my losses, but I intended on just trying to play it on this dip right here, which in hindsight, I think I talked about this last week, where if it does go up and gap, like it's going green, I don't want to go to like shoot back down and test that red green line again. I want it to spike up like at least 40%, and then test somewhere, retrace about like 10 to 20% at the max. I don't want it to retest this green line, but I did enter in right here, and I ended up just having to scalp it right here, just taking a small gain. I can show my entry and exit on it really quick. So even the fact that I just didn't get a good feel either. You see, I got filled some at the top and just mid range, and then I had to sell within that next candle because I saw that the strength just really wasn't there. But then the most frustrating ticker of that day for that Monday. Luckily, I did keep my losses small, but uh, I've noticed that on breakouts, I need stocks that are volatile. MMDF, as you like get more experience and really start understanding what you're looking for, you know which stocks that need your attention and which stocks that just probably doesn't fit your personality, so you should just avoid. MMEDF is definitely just one of those tickers that just doesn't fit my personality. And yes, all right, if you look at the daily chart right here, you see there's a clear breakout lever here at 101. So that's the reason I intended on playing it. But I've been watching MMEDF before, and I noticed that it's a very, very slow mover. And I prefer stocks. Like I know when you play stocks like this, you do have to take a little bit bigger size for it to be worth it. But in my opinion, this stock on this day it only ran about I think 14% if you were to get it directly at the open. And I'm not trying to get stocks where I have to play them perfectly. I want stocks with range because I want to be able to not get a perfect ideal entry and a perfect exit. I want to just be able to take the meat of the move and still be able to feel like, yeah, I captured a good portion of the move and it was good for me. So I did. Uh, my entry on this stock was this was completely just lack of patience on my part, but that's just starting to learn myself even more and more and getting better as a trader. So I had a perfect one thing I noticed about breakouts is I don't want to buy at the breakout line. I want it to pass the breakout, and then I want it to dip under the breakout, and that's where I want to enter. So looking back at it, the entry was at the breakout was at 101. My entry was at $1, and I was risking 99 cents, which I should have really stuck to my wrist because it never broke that 99 level. And you see, it did get all the way up to 108, so it could have possibly been a decent game. But as you can see, the most that I could have made was potentially 108. And I just knowing my personality, if I'm in right here and I see a double topping right here, I'm gonna probably get out right around this 103 range. So just seeing that a stock just wasn't worth my time, it just does not have enough potential for me personally, unless I'm playing huge size. And I don't want to put my position, like put myself in a position where I'm like uncomfortable with my size. But overall, I did have one thing I can take about this trade is since I had such a great entry at 101, always been a risk management with me. Like it's been a really good week for just risk management and just in general for the month. It's been a really good uh, month for risk management. So just hopefully we could keep that up because I was only risking about $50 if it broke this 99 line, and I just cut right as it touched this 99 line. I should cut when it breaks or gets a little bit below, but it's just something to know for next time. Uh, then I had NWBO, which was another 202 19. And we had NWBO, which definitely played a big role going into later in the week, going into that first red day. But I did play this on the, continue to play this on the, just on the, like its way up. I played this on the 19th, and I didn't do too well with it. We go to the daily. I think my entry was at, where was my entry? 202. Oh, I know exactly what happened. This was one of those. I actually fat fingered this trade, played this trade later throughout the day, and I actually wanted to get filled at $2 right over this. You see this kind of break right here, right over $2. This is exactly where I wanted to get filled at, but I actually, for some reason or another, I did was not paying attention to my limit price, and I got filled at 202 instead of $2. And trading, you just have to be very meticulous with your entry. There can't be a moment where there's a mistake. So right after I saw that I got filled at 202, I immediately just sold. I was just like, the plan is kind of messed up. In a way, I could have waited till it broke two, but I mean, I just felt like in my head, it's not exactly what I planned on doing, so I sold it. But this was a nice kind of, let's say, it's a little bit of OT swizzle. The range could have been tighter, but once you see that the range is getting really tight, and right around here you see this little volume perk right there, you can match it up with the chart. It finally gets that 200K volume. Boom, that's the place I want to enter. Instead, I didn't enter there. I entered at 202, and um, yeah, I just sold right here $2. But still, nonetheless, just you gonna make mistakes. You just can't let the mistakes kill you. Um, and headed into the that Tuesday, I didn't trade at all. Nothing really popped on my scan. But Wednesday we had NWBO, which really made the week, uh, which was the 21st, right here. And NWBO is this is textbook. This is pretty much the closest thing to what I would think is an A plus setup because you have this massive extension over this breakout over 20. And I've been tracking I've actually been tracking breakouts. So you see the NWVO had its breakout from that 120 line, but from its all high line, like all time high, meaning the very peak of its run, it got up to a highest uh, $2.51. But from its breakout to its all time high, it's ran about 107%, which means that in my in my definition, depending on how the stock moves and the price and like several other variables, to me it felt like the stock was very, very overextended because it was running with multiple green days in a row. I mean, look, every trader is looking for that first red day. And it really doesn't get any better than this. So right out the open, some of the things that I noticed actually going, let me start retracing my steps, but some of the things that I've noticed about this stock is every day it's always just had these big, big gap ups, or it's always gapped up. Even just from the 15th, it's gapped up to 156. Then on the from the 16th through the 19th, it had this big gap up from 156, 157 to about 183. Then on this day, it gapped up a little bit more to 217. And then on this day, it put in this top at 251, but it didn't get past that 251 mark, which was a big psychological sign for me to think, hey, this is really going to be potentially the first red day. And I just go through my normal process. I did make a few mistakes trying to dip by this stock. I was being very, very aggressive, but luckily, like I saw for the bigger picture. But I'm going to take you through my process again. It's the same process. Just keep it very, very simple. You see that this stock opens, its higher day was at 250, right? So this is all I do. I go to my percent calculator and 250. I draw out my lines. So for this stock, because it's above $1, I want it to drop under 10% in order for me to dip buy. For that $2 mark and that $3 mark is probably golden. The more, the farther down it goes, kind of the better. But you'll see the mistakes that I made. So I'm going to draw these lines: 225, 2, and 175. 2, and then my 3 line is at 175. All right. So I'm gonna also bring up my entries and exits on the charts. And this is like, Vlad, when I tell you, this is why I was upset about myself on this trade, because I just made so many like dumb entries and exits with it. Okay. So I got really, really super aggressive on this stock because I didn't want to miss it. I knew that this was the type of trade that you could make 1,000, 10,000, potentially $30,000 if you like. You have the right account size. You're able to short this stock. You hit your entries and exit right. This is a big potential stock. This is a stock that could make or like this is a stock that could really make your month essentially.
Oh,
So
I didn't know you were buying it after it went red, like right around 220.
that's yeah, I told you I was stupid. Like it's every single time I saw the level 2 turn, I was I was slamming in shares. And that's the reason I was upset with myself. I was just like, I've just traded it so sloppily. So you see that first entry is 225. And then I saw that the level 2 was turning. I was just like, it's only at the 10 line. Why did I get in this stock? let me get out from break even. And another mistake that I did make again was right at where is it? It was this day right here. See, I was playing this with size. You see, I have like 4,800 shares at 225. I should not have 4,800 shares at 225. If anything, that needs to be significantly smaller because if this thing was to just drop right through, I'll be
Exactly. Yeah.
left with my hands in my pants.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. Then I played it again at that 218 to 219, so somewhere into here when I saw that was potentially bouncing right here. So I got my shares right here, and then I was just like, nah, this still isn't it. And if you put that into go into the chart, so I got it, and again right here when I saw that the level two was still bouncing, but then I was just like, nah, this still isn't right because it's still not down enough. I know on first red days they really need to go down. And my normal rule of thumb is, and once I've been telling you, I think I've been say this all the time, dip buy when it's at least 30%, right? I continue I continually say that, but yet I'm not even waiting to the 20 line. Like I'd rather wait to the 20 line before anything. I'm getting super aggressive. I'm stabbing in at that 218, getting out at 220, collecting all these fees. And luckily I was able to cut my losses quickly in these trades. The only time I did get burned was on this 196 attempt when I tried to dip buy from 196 and then I sold at 189. Luckily, my shares were able to actually get off. I think I got in like I think it was when I thought it was really gonna panic because of this volume. You see this maximum amount of selling happens right here. And when I saw this maximum amount of selling right here, I immediately just tried to slam in my shares. The stock was kind of tricky and kind of hard to get filled in a sense. Did put my limit at 196, but normally when I put in my limit at 196, I'm expecting to get filled under 196. I'm not expecting to get filled right at 196, which kind of just disrupted the whole trade for me. And when I saw that I got filled at 196, I was like, oh my goodness, I really hope this thing bounces. I hope it goes to at least two-ish. But then I saw that it's got stuffed at 196 again. So I had to swallow my pride and I had to cut the loss. But I knew not to get in my feelings about it because I've been through CYDY, I've been through LK and CY. And even though I messed those up, I know that there will be another opportunity for me to enter, and there'll be a better chance if I enter again with a clear head. So yes, I did take that $300 loss within that same day, and but I didn't let it get in my head. I didn't let it sink in. So and I also mitigated it in a sense too. It was only a 3% loss. One of my biggest rules is I never want to take a loss over 5% because I mean I'm not controlling my loss, especially with these OTC stocks. So I cut that loss and I was just waiting for it to really hit my line. And once like what do you know? It dropped under that 175 line after the maximum amount of selling, which was right here. And one thing I have noticed again, and I've seen it if you guys watch Twist, like the Stocks to Trade episode, Jack Kellogg goes over. Once you see this maximum amount of selling, it doesn't bounce on that time. Normally, the second time is pretty reliable for that to be the very big bounce because there's no more sellers anymore. It's a whole lot of buyers really coming in, which gave me more confidence to gave me more confidence again to solidify that this 175 line will hold. So Once again, I let it drop under my line at for 175. I immediately, once it dropped under that 175 line, I saw that the bid started stacking up. The ass started getting real thin, and I got my shares right in at 174.5. Again, again, I still sold two. I sold at 181, which was a scalp, but it was right. It was really just because I saw that the level two was turning. So right around here, I saw that the level two was turning again. But one thing I do want to get better at for next time is maybe when I see the level two turning, add right into this dip, especially if it's
Right,
maximum
right.
amount of selling. And instead of adding on this dip, just have my full size on this dip and then ride it out because I really really knew this play very very well from how it would react and how high it would get its potential bounce. But I mean, you live and you learn. So I got my shares at 174. I sold out at 181. So pretty much on this day I'm break even. I think I was down about 63 cents from this point. But again, if I'm gonna pull up, I don't know if let me see. The cool thing about it was yes, I knew it was gonna bounce, and yes, I knew that this top and this that how far it had gone that this wasn't just going to be the whole entire bounce just from about 170 to 91. I knew there was going to be some type of pullback and then it would lead to the real bounce. And I saw that just because of what LKNCY did when it had its panic. I forgot what day it was. I think it was so the 8th. So I came in with the same how similar that these charts reacted, where it did have this clear panic down here, and you could have got filled right here, so right here. But on these big days of drop, there's going to be another. There's going to be a part where the initial dip buyers they just sell their positions, and that's going to be selling going to high because this is the day where the most fear really sets in. So people really don't know whether the bottom is going to fall out on this thing, but I do know once it solidifies and makes this kind of higher low right here that there will be a really good chance of it finally getting back to at least VWAP. And I don't know how high it can go, but I know it at least can get to VWAP. And I took that same approach that LKNCY showed me, and I took that same approach into NWBO, which is why I saw, which is why I knew that 181 would be about the lowish because I just compared it to where it started consolidating right around here. So I have my shares in at 181. And still, again, I didn't follow my plan completely, and it's something I really want to get better at going into uh, just future potential plays like this. I pretty much sold my shares with the 196 average, which is a 8% gain, which is decent. But Vlad can attest to this. Like I was in chat commenting like exactly how high it can think. I think it can bounce. If I'm commenting how high I think it can bounce, why am I not taking profits like at least at $2? I'm not saying I have to top ticket, but on these type of plays, I can't be already setting like a minimal type of price target. I need to really let the chart guide me. I knew that 190 it was going to go past 196, but yet again I sold at 196. Why not take advantage of plays that you feel like you have advantage of? Why are you minimizing your gains on something that you've been like studying and putting all of your time into? When the time is right, you really need to strike.
Right. No,
So
that's true because
that
VWAP at the time was a little bit higher than when you sold that.
yeah, it was like 20. I think it was 202 at the time, and I sold at 196. And you see that there was no really selling pressure there. I just sold at a random place. To be honest, on the chart, wasn't telling me to sell. If any
Right.
place, I should have been selling into this push right here, because this is where like that fear kind of sets in after that little spike. Um, but nonetheless, it still was a nice little game. I made about four, yeah, no, if you add these two together, about 500 on it. But this, like, again, I said again, this is a type of day that you need to be making 1,000, 2,000, because you're not trading just for the P and L. You're trading the trade well. You want to make those good percent gains because you know exactly how this stock is going to react, because you know how, because you've been studying. Uh, then again, I just had NWBO again. A lot of times when you have these big, massive runners, you have to really take advantage of them and milk them to their fullest extent. So I was playing. Normally, when a stock has their first red day is followed by a second red day, which also produces their panic dip by opportunity. And panic dip buy is what I'm good at. That's my specialty. That's what that's what I do. So again, I want to come in with the same intent. It panicked about one from 186 all the way down to 195, not 195, to about 158. And I got a terrible feel on this. I'm like, I was just a bit too slow. It was nothing but my fault. I saw that the turn started happening, and I just clicked the button too slow. But I got filled at 165. And because I knew I got filled at 165, I just immediately sold my shares as soon as I saw that the level two was starting to turn. So I sold for a quick little gain at 169, like 169.5 ish, around that area. But I mean, nonetheless, what I really should have been paying attention to was this part, this part of the bounce. But for some reason or another, I just didn't recognize this opportunity, which was a really good bounce in hindsight. Makes me kind of happy because it's kind of showing me that NWBO might not be done, because it's very like strong still, even though it had this first red day.
Yeah, hopefully. I hope it breaks out 251
Yeah.
and rip the five.
Yeah, I think it will too, because that's the fact that had these two green days right in a row. I think it's going to have some days of consolidation. It's definitely not going to be maybe next week, but looking into might be December ish, it might break past that 251. But I mean, you just got to take opportunity when it comes. But nonetheless, even though I didn't trade this, I kind of do want to review it. You see where, again, uh, you see where it's being bought at its maximum, and then you get this double bottom, right? Not double bottom, but you get this higher low right here from 150, 154, and you see that you have a clear bottom at 152. This is exactly where the place where I really should have entered in, because it just offers such good risk reward. Even if you got in right at that 155, you're only risking 3 cents. and to possibly gain up to, see, it got as high as freaking 196, and you're probably not going to get up to 190, 197, 196, but that's not the point. The point is you're taking a good, you have a good chance that it's going to go higher. And if it doesn't go higher, you're only losing about 2 cents a share. But at that time, you could potentially say you could gain up to what's that? About say about 20 cents. 20 cents is to this 173 line. So you're risking 2 cents to 2 cents, 3 cents to gain 20 cents, which is a very good risk to reward scenario. Um, then the last trade I had of the week was HALB, which I'm glad I did was able to make up for what I didn't do so well with earlier. So right out the gate, you get that, well, not right out the gate, but you get this big spike and it does pass this breakout line, which is at that 0.0075 line right here. And what I noticed is I want to treat breakouts the same way that I do every single time. This breakout was really, really strong. And you see that it broke out past this level. And normally breakouts they don't just keep going up like this, which is why it gave me more patience to wait for it to actually come underneath the breakout level. And I got in right here at that 0.076 line. And I'll explain why I got in a little bit later. But you see that you get this straight up spike whenever breakouts happen and they get this straight up spike. That's not a natural movement. When breakouts happen, you want them to really test the breakout line. You want it to be, in sense, it has to fit the picture with the intraday. Like, I don't want it to just to spike right up and then just keep going, because how that's not how a good breakout happens. You want them there to be some consolidation. You want pullback. You want it to grind up, and like it has to fit the image. You get this spike past the breakout line, and then you see this starting to consolidate right here. And this is actually where Tim Sykes got in. He got in right here at 0.081. And I know with Tim Sykes get in, I never want to get in because there's a lot of people that always just follow his alerts, and I don't want to be a part of the dumb money.
Exactly.
Um, yeah. When I know Tim Sykes is going to get in 9 times out of 10, if it doesn't spike uh immediately or does exactly what he wanted to do within a reaction, that he's going to get out because he is a disciplined trader. So I just had to be patient and wait for the subscribers to get out pretty much. And he got out right at that 0.85 line. He got out because he saw this double topping action right here at 0.093. It didn't break over this 0.09 high. So he got out at 0.085. Once he got out, I knew that the selling was going to happen. And the reason I chose this 0.076 line was just because I know during um I told you guys that I know when I buy breakouts, I want to buy when it goes under the breakout line. So this was the first point where it is under the breakout line. And I know that the people that have also been watching the stock who didn't catch it right at this initial spike, they're also going to be interested in getting it right when it gets the under the breakout line. And also, people during fear, especially when like a guru sells. I'm sure everyone, when you're new, you've been there before. Like, you might use a market order, And you shouldn't use a market order, especially on these OTCs, because you can get filled terribly, especially when you're when it's being like sold off. But I just took advantage of it being a market order because I got that dead bottom fill. So when I get these dead bottom fills, I'm super ecstatic because that means the worst that I'm going to do on this trade is break even, meaning the worst that I can do is lose $10, basically just from the OTC's fees from buying and selling. And I wasn't expecting for it to really grind back up to 0.093. I know on breakouts, I want to I actually wanted to have several entries and exit because I know a real breakout will offer you several entries and exits, and I want to just be stacking up on singles on breakouts. And that's exactly what I did. I got in at 0.076. I got in right here on that 0.076 line, and I sold with an average of 0.087. But it was a nice little predictable type of game because in this time, because again, it didn't get to that breakout naturally like I wanted it to. So I'm not expecting in my head, I'm not expecting to be able to like, hold this for a very long time. I'm trying to get a percent gain and then I'll look if it shows me another opportunity to buy, then I will take that other opportunity. I wanted to take my little predictable percent gain, which was from that 0.076 to 0.0837. Then I think 10 minutes. I probably should have showed the minute chart here, but it is what it is. You guys can see it through here. But when I saw this topping action right here, I was just like, why am I trying to get a home run? It may not get back to 0.093. It's already showed times of double topping right here. So let me just take my money right here. And if it's a real breakout, then it will give me multiple opportunities to play, and which it did it. So I'm glad I avoided it and still took my quick little game. And that's pretty much it for this week. Um,
So I think there's a lot of good lessons that you brought up, especially with the NBIO, not NBIO, NWBO.
for sure.
So I think that
Because
helped a
that
lot.
the NWBO is definitely a textbook type setup.
Right. And it really shows
I know
that.
you have.
Oh, good.
I say I know you have your own input from the short side of it as well.
Right. So for me this week, I think I did a lot of things well. One of
Hold
them.
on. Show. Can
Oh,
you show your screen?
oh my bad. Let me do that. All right. Can you see my screen? See my
Yeah,
chart?
you good.
Let me just move this out the way. So, and I'll even show you guys my entries and exit on it. So let me get that pulled up as well. But like I was saying, for me this week, I think I did a lot of things well. One of the things that I think I did well this week was managing my risk and cutting my loss. I didn't have, I think my biggest loser this week was 300, about $300 loss on one trade, and I'm just gonna start off with that. That was DOGZ, and for me, that was just like a stupid trade. I was mad that I missed the first run up, so I decided to try to over trade and get my VWAP pulled up. All right. Get this pulled up.
Does dogs actually make dog food?
I have no idea what they make.
Uh,
Yeah. So here's the chart. I don't even know if I can make this bigger for my entry. But pretty much I bought it at the top, got stubborn when I saw it flush down. And I was like, well, let me just risk 300 bucks. It's just like an arbitrary number that I came up in my mind. And also I saw this little support line right here. So with the support line, as soon as it crossed over, I had a market sell order for stop loss, and it just, it just fell badly. And let me go to my initial thought on this stock. So my thesis behind this was Chinese stocks been running as of late, and they'll have like these big spikes. So I saw this pre-market; it was going up. And the first thing that I thought, like, okay, I want to wait till this stock flushes out, show a little bottom, and if it gets above VWAP, that's going to be my signal to be able to enter. So as soon as the market opened, flushed out a little bit, made this little bottom, then it quickly went above VWAP. Then I started noticing that the volume started increasing. So the whole time I had my order set, but I just didn't pull the trigger. I was like, nah, let me just wait a little bit more, just to see. Then sure enough, it just ripped. VWAP was at the time was like 235. It went up right around 245, $2.45. That was the area that I was gonna submit my order in. But like I said, the whole time I just had my hand on the trigger. I just had to click confirm, but I never clicked confirm. So I just watched this thing rip from 245 to $3.42 because I think a chat room also got in it as well too, and they started buying it around like 280 something. They were buying in the 280s, which caused this to rip up. And then once they sold, went down the stock. So I was mad about this, and what the other thing too that got me even more frustrated. Not only did I miss this trade, because after this took off, it was another trade. What was that ticker? It was like the same similar action. Um, it bottomed out. I think it was. Let's see. Look at my scanner. CLPS. And before the market opened, I said CLPS was going to be my top stock for me to buy. And the reason being, I like looking at stocks yearly before before I try to go long on it. And the big thing that stood out for me about this stock was the volume. As you could see, it didn't do that much volume. So being the fact that it didn't have that much volume on these previous days, so I figured there's not going to be a lot of resistance if this stock start pushing 30, 50, 60 million in volume. And plus it was a low float at that. And the third thing that I liked about it, it was earnings. So earnings on Friday, there was about three stocks that was up due to earnings. So I knew that this could have a potential spike and this potential run. And the same thing that I had in mind about this as well. I want to first let this thing flush out. Once it flush out, make a couple of bottoms. Once I saw this first higher low right here, and that volume started increasing um, on this little candle right here and going into this candle, and plus that it was going to be above this intraday high, that's the area I wanted to go long in. And again, I had my finger on the trigger. All I had to do just click confirm, but I was like, nah, let me just wait again. And this rips up. Boom. I was like, damn, missed it. I was like, well, let me buy it off of the VWAP. And I saw this had this like nasty dump. Well, no, this was because I wanted to wait after it did this, but this had this nasty dump right here. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm not gonna mess with this stock anymore. But sure enough, it reclaimed VWAP, then continued to go higher. And I think chat room again got into this stock. So just giving you guys my psychological take on it. So I missed two plays already. So I'm in like revenge trade because I think at the time I was only up like $150 on the day. And I was like, man, I should have easily, been up close to about $1,000 today. So I had the right idea. Let me just go ahead and just draw a downward trend line. And I think I had it based upon, I don't even know how this got like this. Was it? Okay, I drew a downward trend line based upon the 2 minute. And as you can see, I was just fabricating this just to be able to meet my psychological mind. Um, but I drew the trend line, saw that it broke, and started perking up. Made a higher low, and it held this like 250 line. And I wanted to try to play this as a VWAP reclaim. So I love that strategy on the long side. Whenever a stock, have a sell off, then it start perking back up, and once VWAP is reclaimed, normally that's the signal for me to be able to get in, which I did. I got in at what was it, 280 something, like 283. Then immediately we had this hard sell off. So once you have an immediately hard sell off of VWAP, that's your signal to get out. I got stubborn. I was like, well, maybe it could reclaim. So once I start saying well in my mind, that's definitely a signal for me to say, hey, you need to stop trading this stock and just call it a day. But yeah, it quickly slammed back because normally you could play the VWAP reclaim a couple of different ways. You could wait till it get above VWAP, then the first candle, after the first candle finish up, that's above it, that's an indicator that you could go long on this stock. The second way that you could play it is if the stock spiked through VWAP, the next retest of VWAP, and after it, test VWAPs, make the first green candle, that could be a signal for you to go ahead and get in. But for me, I played it this way. Then the second candle, because normally it's supposed to make a green candle, then followed by little mini candles, then a big spike. But once this happened, like I said, that was the signal for me to get out. But I was being stubborn, and I didn't get out to like 250. So 30 cents, and I had about 1,000 shares, so I lost. I think the official number was like 321. So now that was my biggest loss this week, which I'm actually proud of. So the other ones were just scratches. Lost 100 here, 100 there, 50 here, 80 here, 200 here. Which is, to me, if I'm able to do that consistently, then I shouldn't have any, real big issues. So the best trade that I had this week was NWBO. And for NWBO, I played it on the first red day. So the first red day on OTC is a lot different than the first red day on NASDAQ or listed stock. And the big difference is the first red day on OTC, like once it goes red after a big, after a couple of days of up move, it's gonna flush down and it's gonna flush hard. There's not gonna be like a flush bounce, flush bounce. It's just gonna be like a straight downward action typically. Let me fix this and just draw my red green lines here. All right, 20 day, 1 minute. All right. So the day prior, I did see the double top there. And what really gave me the conviction to really think, okay, if this goes red today, on this day here, that the stock was going to flush out, was the fact that it had this flush the day prior. So it had a big flush the day prior, and it hit right off of the red-green, green-red line, and it just bounced. Bounce. So once I saw that on this day, I was like, okay, if this stock goes red tomorrow, I know this is going to be a good sign for me to go ahead and go short. So let me find my entry on this.
I'm glad you started using TraderView.
Yeah, right after our session, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start using it now. All right. The 1 minute. Just large out there. There it is. Perfect. So first,
Bro, I think you actually sold to me.
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like when you said when
196.
yeah, I was like, yeah, I might have just well, no, I had bought back what you were selling. So yeah. So once I saw that it had this initial dump, then it tested VWAP and it rejected. I was like, oh yeah, this might be the first red day. So immediately I just put in 1,000 shares here, and I was like, well, just in case, if it isn't the first red day, I could always cover right up here. With the 1,000 shares that I had, I would have lost like a hundred bucks, which is not bad as far as for a starter's size. But then it started doing this little consolidation here, and it just dumped. As soon as it dumped here, I slapped on 4,000 shares at, I want to say like 224. Like I really chased. I could have did a little bit better on my entry, but since I had this entry right here at 1,000 shares, it brought down my average to 226, 226.5 or something like that. So it wasn't the end of the world. 5,000 shares at 226 with a stop out. I had the stop out at 227. I'm sorry, 237, which would have been VWAP at the time. So right around here, like had it went green, I would have been okay with it. As long as VWAP was rejected, I would have felt more comfortable still holding in. So with A plus setups like this is what I'm starting to do and starting to learn from other investors. Like with A plus setups, you should give yourself a bigger stop out range as far as dollar amount. Because if you are right, the return on those A plus setups is gonna, cover what you potentially lost on that trade and then some. So I was okay with this risking losing maybe about like 600 bucks had this bounce back. I'm glad it didn't. It tried it here, got rejected, and during this little bounce, I was like, man, maybe I should just cover. But then I thought about CYDY, and I thought about all these other tickers on the first red day, how these really reacted. So that gave me a little bit more conviction, like, what? Let me just stick to my risk. And at that point in time as well, VWAP started dropping down, and VWAP was right around like the red green. So I was like, okay, if you're wrong, right now, since you're dropping your risk level, if you're wrong, you would only lose maybe about 200 bucks. So 200 bucks to potentially make, because I was thinking maybe I could make 3K on this trade. Because I thought it was going to flush down even further. My expectation sometimes is just like, I'm about to get this Lambo tomorrow. So I was like, okay, you could potentially lose 200 bucks and you may be able to make 3K. So I stayed patient. And once I saw the bounce was like weak and didn't even get close to here, I was like, oh yes, this is going to dump pretty well. Then as soon as I saw it crack the low day at that time, I knew this thing was going to keep flushing. So it flushed. And the bad thing that I did, I looked at my P&L. Because during this time, I wasn't looking at my P&L. But once it started dumping some more, I looked at my P&L and I saw that I was up a decent amount. I was like, yo, if this thing just showed a sign of strength, I'm just going to get out. And which it did. Like, it was like right on key. Like, as soon as I thought it happened, then I was like, oh crap, let me just go ahead and get out. So I sold all 5,000 shares. I think I had the average sell cover at 194, but I was slamming it, just like get me out, get me out. So got out. Then it had this little second flush here. So for next time, for me to improve, if I do see this, I may just lock in half and just hold the rest and just to see if it's gonna have a secondary bounce. So that was my trade on NWBO. I think the way that I traded overall was pretty well. Here it is right here. And I got everything out right there. Now the second part to NWBO was the bounce. Now the bounces I gotta get better at because this trade, I should have been able to make like 4K altogether. Like had I, been really well on my executions on this, because this shit, I think when I covered here, I only made like 1,600. So I left another like $750 on the table had I just been a little bit more patient. So just from the short aspect, that would have been like 2K. Then the second plan was, I think I bought it at 179, and was 178, and I think I sold at like 179. Let me find that trade as well.
You guys saw the same thing I was seeing. Just that when that level two turned, yeah, everyone just gets scared, especially when it's the most amount of selling because these things can drop more than
Exactly.
just 30%. Yeah,
Right.
that's why it's so fearful.
And plus, too, I think my orders wasn't getting executed like when I tried to sell, because initially my sell order that I tried to do for it was, I want to say, okay, this is my other short. All right, well, since I have this up, well, let me just keep it in order and I'll come back to this one. Yeah, with this one, I think I made only 28 bucks, which is crazy. All right. All right. So I saw level two because I knew it had this bounce and it had this little bounce right here as well. Then with that hard flush, and it was just like a straight nosedive, I knew once I saw the stacking, because I saw the stacking on level two, but for me, I was like, let me just wait a little bit more. Then once I saw that it wasn't going nowhere, I just put in an order at 170. I think I did 180, and the bid and the ask at the time was showing like 176. And of course, my broker's gonna get me filled with the worst entry. So I got filled at 178, like on this little. Is this the right one? No, that's not right there. Yeah, so I got filled like right around here. Right around here. And what shook me out, because I slammed on 3,000 shares, and what shook me out was this red candle here. I was like, oh, this might be a turn. This might be a turn. So I immediately got out, made 28 bucks, was able to just barely cover my commission. The next thing you know, you have this bounce, and I was looking to re-enter on this trade, like on this next dip. So somehow I got busy. I handling something with my wife. Then by the time I came back, I think it was like at 189. And so my goal was to initially buy the bounce and sell at VWAP. So since that didn't happen, and I looked at it like okay, If I try to buy it at 189 and VWAP at the time was at $2.02 or $2.01, I was like, nah, since that's, I would have to go really big size. And plus the
I
risk
think,
of that.
well, I think that's something that you need to point out is just you see how many opportunities there are with these plays. Like, see it from the short side, even though you didn't catch it on that dip, you can still buy it over that higher day break and what like that high that bounce break. And yes, you have to go full more buy more size, but it's that you have higher odds of it working still.
Right. It just for me, the sales target, because I didn't really think it was going to get this high. Like the sales
Shoot, I was
target.
telling you.
Yeah, you sure was. And matter of fact, you were telling me like, man, if I were you, I'll be shorting it like right around here. I was like, nah, I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna wait. Because I was thinking like this thing might go green, man. It keep going. But yeah, my sales target was just like it was super conservative. I was like VWAP, then I'm out. So just 10, it was 11 cents. So if I would have did 5K shares again, but just it would have been like a 1-to-1. It would have been like a 1-to-1 risk reward because stop out had I got in at 189 would have been you know 179. That's 10 cents.
Well, another thing with that is what the reason it's high odds is because it's similar to just like a breakout. If it passes that 189 line and then goes beneath 189, sell. Like you don't have to let it go back to that 180 line again.
Oh, okay, I see what
Like
you're
you have
saying.
to take, yeah, you have to take each scenario as a different risk to reward.
Gotcha. But yeah, so that was the frame of mind that I was thinking at the time. So I was like, nah, I think I'm good on the bounce. But I was like, man, next time though, I'm just gonna stick to my guns. And if I get in like this, you know, had I because I got 3,000 shares at 178. Had I been wrong, I don't know, only lost maybe like two something. That's still good risk reward based upon how much more you could have made on the bounce. And the bounce, probably 9 times out of 10 it works because there's that one outlier. Now, like, nah, I'm not bouncing. I'm just gonna keep dumping. but more time out of 10, it's gonna work. So with high odds patterns like that, and with really good risk reward, that's why I said with this type of trade, I should have made a lot more than what I did. But overall, pretty good day. And the last trade that I did on it was reshorting it, and I went with the smaller size. I think I did 2,000 shares.
You do it on the second day as well.
Nah, second day I couldn't find any locates.
Okay.
So with this, and I knew to like wait to the end of the day to be able to sell, but I just got tired of just waiting because it does get a little boring. And what one thing that helped me out as well, I kept going back and looking at KLK and CY, I think. I kept going back just to see how this stock performed during this dump day. And surprisingly, it's like almost similar. I mean, what was the day that it dumped? And that's why I love this on-demand feature. Because if you want to see what a stock did previously in the past, you could certainly go back and look at it. That was 10-8. and I'll just do like end the day with the timer for 23. So yeah, this is how it happened. It dumped. Here's the bounce. It was another bounce, and it just kept trending higher. So when I was looking at it, I was looking at it from this standpoint. Once this stock went under VWAP, it just had this continual dump. So coming into NWBO, like I got in right here once it dumped under here, but it just kept holding this little support line for like the longest. And of course, I covered like somewhere over here, but eventually popped back up, but it eventually died off at the end of the day, just like LK NCY did. So for me, I don't think I have any other significant trade or anything else worth talking about. Let me just
What are you going into next week looking at?
well, next week, since I'm changing brokers, I can't really trade until all my funds get transferred to my Cobra trading account. And one thing too, I think it's worth noting is based upon your strategy, the broker that you have really is going to make a big difference. Because I was comparing my borrows on NWBO with another trader, and they had let's say they had Speed Trader, and other people who had like Cobra as well, but their borrows were like 0.005 on NWBO. Meanwhile, I was paying uh, 0.07, so that's almost a whole decimal place. So that way you can see how messed up. And I know it's the cost of doing business, but if somewhere else is offering it cheaper, like why not move? So 0.007 for 5,000 shares, that's how much I borrowed. I was already down 350 before I even took the trade. So had this not worked out, had this not been the first red day, I would have been down whatever I lost plus the 350 versus another account or another broker. They're playing 0.005 with 5K shares. That's $25 for them. Like if it works, it
It's a big
works.
difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for next week, I'm still just gonna, do my same routine,
In
come
tune.
do my same routine, come in and look at the markets. I'm hoping, they have all the transfer by at least Wednesday. They say 3 to 5 business days. I actually got an email from Trade Zero today saying that my account is going to be under PDT, which is a good sign because that means they're taking all my money out of the account. But when I looked in my back office, it still showed, my account balance on there. So hopefully that's just a sign of them already, transferring that money over there. But oh, there's one other trade too that I might take with my E-Trade account. And that was a potential breakout. So far, it looks like it's working, but Never know. Do you remember the ticker name?
CBBT.
CBT. Get this out of the way. All right, so this is a nice looking chart. So I have this breakout right here so far. So next week, so if it gaps up, I'm looking for like a flush, kind of like the same setup that I always look for. You know, the listed stock. Have a flush, make a couple of bottoms, then start to slowly grind up. And if it does that, then I would have a good place to be able to wrist off of. So that's the only trade that I see for next week. I mean, I'm pretty sure more might pop up. If they do, I might trade in my E-Trade account. I don't really like to because it's E-Trade for me is like more of a long, and I'm getting better at longs, but at the same time, I like shorting, and plus I'm gonna be under PDT underneath that account, so
Yeah. I think this was a very informative episode. Well,
yeah, absolutely. So hopefully everything went right with the
yeah,
audio, so I can upload this.
yeah.
So I'm gonna stop the recording right
But
here.